Okay, recording has begun. Get the overhead here. Like that. All right. So here you see I had this taped down. If you do, remember, if you do like paint this big piece, or really any painting, if the paper gets wet and you tape the edge of the paper to a secure surface, I do this with, actually here, I'll show you this. Do it's actually quite large. I have a painting I've been working on off and on for many years, and I just dug it up, oopsie, a few months ago, and I have it painted, I have it taped to this board. Actually, this is actually like a little portable drafting table that I wasn't using, and so I taped it to it. And when I paint, it's a water-based paint, and the paper gets wet and expands, and I want the paper to dry flat so that when I go to work on it, I'm not trying to paint on a bumpy surface. So I just keep it taped down until I'm finished. That's something that people will do with watercolor. I learned to do that partly like taking paper, like in my work doing printmaking. You have to print on paper while it's damp, and then when it dries, it'll get all wavy. And so to flatten it again, you have to sort of, it's kind of a reverse of the process where you have to get the paper damp again, and then tape it down, and then let the paper dry flat. But it's a really good technique. So I remember first in school working on like trying to paint with like ink in my sketchbook or on paper, and then finding that it's just wavy and the paper the paper doesn't look very good. Don't stick to that. So I taped mine down after the fact, as if you saw the video, you know. This, since mine is wider, don't worry too much about that getting damaged there. All right, and then here are my conveniently numbered samples. I find that with the way this curves, if I put them down this way, and I can overlap, that way this flatter down there. 3. Okay, so since I'm not doing this assignment for a grade, I don't have to worry as much about how good my transition is, but I still want to make a good example, so I don't want this to be completely terrible. And I can't help you to identify there, like a little white, that unpainted edge. So make sure that this is clean. That's number 9. That's number 7. There's number 8. 9. And 10. So for mine, I got this many. I can see in evaluating my scale, I'm looking for even steps. It's actually better than I expected. This is a little uneven here. So if I have all these others, painted up here, this is one of the reasons that you make a lot of them, initially is if I look at this and I see like that looks like it's too much, I'll look to see if I have another one like where this is a little bit lighter. Which would, then this is something that you've probably encountered. It might solve the problem of like a transition from here to here, but then it might make this transition like, so it might just shift the problem over. This is actually pretty good. I'm actually a little surprised. I thought when I first painted them, I thought like, this is really like not all that good. I felt like I would have more spaces where I needed extras, and I don't think I did. So here I have 10. 10 looks like it's enough. And of course, I can see it better in person than it looks like on the screen. Hopefully you can see well enough what the process is. Okay? And I think my middle value is a little darker than this one, so that's pretty good in terms of like where it falls in middle value. One way you can test, like, so the point with the middle value is like if it's close, then you're in good shape. If you have like your middle value, but it's like it matches like this sample, then it's going to look dark, or like it's going to look light behind these darkest samples. But when you put it over here, underneath these lighter ones, it won't look as dark. So just try to make it close to the middle. You can test this by putting your darkest one down and your lightest one down, and just try to see like, do you get good contrast with both of them? This one, it's still like this light looks very bright against this, but I think that this is good. It's definitely going to look dark behind the light one, and it'll look light behind the dark one. It almost looks like this could even be a little bit lighter, to be like truly middle value between this as the lightest and this as the darkest. But that's close enough. So then what I would do, the next stage here would be to take my template, trace it on these samples lightly, cut them out, and then mount them down on that. I might trim this ahead of time. Something larger. This is why I had you get a 12 by 18 cutting mat, so that you wouldn't try to use a cutting mat that's too short. If you're in a pinch and you don't have the 12 by 18 cutting mat, or budgetary reasons, a larger one, this is from an 11 by 14, and if I set this down diagonally, the diagonal is longer than 14. That's some very simple application of geometry, and my old high school geometry teacher, Sister Mary Louise, would be proud of me for that. She didn't think I was a very good student. Well, I think that she might have been right. Not at that time. They still didn't teach me fractions, which was kind of weird. That they would let you graduate from high school like with barely any math skills. But I learned math in practice. I did picture framing when I was in college, and that's a really good. If you ever want to learn fractions, get a job as a picture framer. You will have to understand fractions and use fractions down to the 16th of an inch. All right, so I want to trim this, and we got this uneven edge, and so I'm just going to use the line here. What, 3/4 of an inch I think will do it. I want to make sure I leave myself as much as possible. And and still cut off that uneven edge. I mean, be really careful putting the straight edge down. I don't want the metal to scuff the surface of that. And again, one reason why you have a cork back ruler is that it is not, you're not just putting a metal edge down on your work. And here he comes. All right, my guest star is here, but you're in the light, man. Here, Elliot, lie down on these very important things over here. Love it that he always wants to be close to me. But sometimes it doesn't work. Where's my other mark? I completely lost where my other mark is. Oops. I'll probably find it as soon as I put this straight edge down. Okay, good. Pressure, number 3. Even though this knife is sharp, I don't try to cut through in one stroke, because too much pressure, it can very easily, the straight edge can shift, or the knife can shift. Okay, so I know I wanted mine to be 2.5. So I'll go 2.5 and 2.5. Oh, 2, room 2, good. And there I am. So this is it's a teeny bit streaky, but I wouldn't even worry about it. Good enough. So then I will cut these, and they're going to, be such a size that they're just going to let them line up on the bottom. The width of this I know is like, I think I need to mine in measuring. I think I measured this for the pyramid design. I think it needed to be about 11. So that little bit of white that's there will get cut off. Okay. Mount it down like that. If your design is too wide for the board, and may very well be, don't worry about mounting this to, what you'll do is you mount the pieces to this, so like you'll make this big background, you'll layer the smaller pattern down on top of this. If this is too wide for a board, then don't worry about mounting it to the board. Just take it, photograph it, and you'll have to like back up more. Like zoom out a little bit. See Elliot lying down on everything. And take a picture. Okay. Any questions about the pattern itself that you're doing? No. Well, I hope that I've been very clear, and that's why there aren't any questions. This is with assignments like this. They're kind of open-ended in terms of what you end up doing. It's not as if I've seen probably this course taught in such a way that it's more like, here's a project and you copy the project and you learn something from that, but you don't learn how to come up with your own imagery. And coming up with your own imagery, that's the more difficult thing for design and for art. That's something It was extremely valuable to me, and it was really hard to do. Um, I studied fine arts for 3 years in college, and then I dropped out, went back, got my BA in history, then I went to graduate school for fine arts. And once you learn, like, you're sort of like simultaneously learning technique and then how to make unique images. And one way you learn how to make unique images is you look at other successful examples that have been done before, because as one of the first art phrases I heard in college is you cannot create in a vacuum, meaning you're going to be referring to something else. You don't have to be like, when you're brand new to this, you really can't be original because you don't know what's been done before. If you don't know what's been done before, it's very easy to do things that are derivative of other ideas, and that's shouldn't be a surprise. You shouldn't expect yourself out of the gate to just do things that no one's ever even thought of before. If you've thought of it, somebody else has probably already thought of it, done it, and you shouldn't let that discourage you, because the way you do arrive at original work is you keep making it and you keep working out the things that are derivative, that look like it's that looks like more like it's somebody else's idea, and eventually you get to your own unique ideas. Okay, I'm going to stop the overhead, and then we are going to go to another screen share of this. All right, so can you see this Microsoft Word document right here?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so this is something that I started working on, and I part of this. So like this first, I'll go through this, and I don't expect you to, I know a little bit about ancient Greek history just because I've taught it a little bit. So some of this is already familiar to me. So I don't expect you to have that necessarily. But I'll just let this speak for itself. I chose this pattern to work from. So this is the Greek wave motif. I chose this pattern to work from because it fits the assignment so well. That's pretty straightforward. The repetition of the wave motif allows a direct application of the monochromatic scale to each wave. I may just change that to each piece. Using wave twice, wave, it's just getting really wavy. To each piece. That's good enough. While my design has been altered, as it should be, it is interesting to look into the process of ancient artists and artisans that developed this motif. So an example from an ancient mosaic, I might say, as I have ancient, it's like repetition of, the reason there are lots of words is so that you don't have to keep using the same one over and over again. As an example from a Greek mosaic, shows the accuracy of the repetition of the wave. So this is something that I learned in doing this. I've seen this wave motif over and over again. And I did not put it together that the precision of this pattern comes from mathematical principle of the golden section, which I already know about, but didn't recognize in this. And I learned that by searching here I did, when I looked up Greek wave pattern, I saw this Vitruvian wave pattern, and so I checked out the link. And here we have what is called a Vitruvian scroll. And Vitruvius was a Roman mathematician, and he was the Roman that sort of like cataloged a lot of what the Greeks had done. And a lot of what we have from the ancient Greeks is through the Romans, who were really good at copying the Greeks, but with some art and design, they just kind of like lifted Greek ideas. But so that's why this is called Vitruvian scroll, which is Roman. Which that's a detail you might not need to worry about. Okay, so I get from this, I get Vitruvian scroll, which means that it comes from the golden ratio, because this spiral is a proportioning. I guess it's proportioned based on this these rectangles that have the same ratio and then decrease in size. And I won't go into it there. I was tempted. I was starting to write about this golden ratio, and I hold it. I just need the picture. I'm not writing. I'm not writing something for publication. I'm just writing about what I did. So, when I was in undergraduate, one of our art history professors was giving us an assignment, like a term paper assignment, or I think it was probably a shorter writing assignment, because I don't think we could write a term paper about ourselves. But she said that the fine arts studio majors had to write about their own work. And one of my friends complained, saying I'm a painter. I make images. I shouldn't have to write about it. And she said, "You're just rationalizing being inarticulate," which was great because she was right. There's no reason that someone who is a visual, makes visual work, can't learn to write about that work. But you resist. It's easy. It's sort of normal to resist things that are difficult. Everybody does it. I still do it. I mean, why would you? Or why wouldn't you? Right? It's like I'd rather go lie down. I'm tired, or I'd rather go have fun. I don't want to sit here and work hard on this thing. But it's kind of nice when you work on something and you have the satisfaction of having done it. That's sort of where you should direct your ambition. So here, so I mentioned here an example from Greek mosaic accuracy of the wave. So it comes from the golden section. There. That right there, I think, is all I need to say about that. I want to conclude this. So I don't want this to be long. I just want you to write. I want you to do some. I want you to tell me something about the source. So if you looked at if you looked at an ancient pattern, like an early pattern from India or China, I want you to tell me about it. I don't know. I mean, if I see your work, I look and say, "Oh, that's cool," and then you tell me a little bit of a story, like a little backstory of how you arrived at it. That's interesting because that tells me that you can think. Right? It sort of it gives me a little window into your thought process. People always want to know in design, how did you get there? People clients can get very frustrated, depending on the client. But I've heard this from a lot of designers that when you design something for someone, then you just present them with here's this very polished, finished work. This is what we'll do. They're like, well, how did you get there? How did you make those decisions? I mean, they're paying you. They're paying for your ideas. They're also, a lot of them are paying to be involved in the process because the work is not for you. The work is for them. and they have every reason to want to know how did you get this? How did you arrive at this idea? So this is practice. This is practice for you to learn how to explain what you've done. Does this make sense so far? What I'm talking about?
Yes.
Great. Okay. All right, good. So I have and so the inset images, this is like what I originally looked at, and then this is a picture of this like spiral from the golden section, which is, this is, and this looks really like, it looks that this is like, to me, it's always been kind of a funny thing. It looks it is very mathematical, because what you do, if you start with any rectangle and you find the halfway point, what is it? I think it's like, you find the halfway point, you go up to the top with a compass, you draw like a line like down, you get that. Anyway, I'm not even going to go into it. I'd have to draw it out and demonstrate it, and it would take a little bit of time. I didn't really mean to get into like how the golden section spiral is made, but the spiral still has to be drawn by somebody, because it's, these rectangles are divided up, showing the way it, like, showing like that curve of the spiral hits the edge of the rectangle at all these specific points. And the ratio of this has been found in nature. In where are you? Conch shell. So here, I'm going to do this. Shell. There. So basically the sort of interesting thing about that is that the Greeks observed, I'll just use this for the pictures, not because I'm interested in cosmology, but the ancient Greeks observed, going back 2,500 years, 3,000 years. Ooh, I don't know, man. I just want the picture. Where's the picture? There you are. This spiral follows that same proportioning that the golden section gives you. So it's kind of one of those things like, did geometry come first or did nature come first? And it looks like nature came first, and people, we don't need to see that. Nature came first, and the Greeks recognized it and realized this is like a mathematical, this is mathematical, that nature works in a mathematical way. So that, again, is getting way beyond what I need to write about here. All right, so, and this is, I stopped that sentence I began there. Like, I stopped myself and like, hold it. I want a page with my pictures. I just want a page here. So I want to conclude this. Good. So I got that. That's enough. Okay. I think I might move that. Elliot, what are you doing? Oops, no, he's like making himself comfortable. Now here's something. That happens. Yeah, here's something that happens in writing. This is my writing process. I basically wrote the same thing. In two places. That's because when you start writing something, don't be surprised if you like write something and then you reread it and you realize I've said the same thing 3 times. And the first time you write something, you're trying to get at the best way to write something, and without even thinking about it, I always do that. Really, always. That I write and like I'll write a page and then I'll reread it and I see that I can edit a significant amount from it or combine sentences because I've been kind of like writing this like this. I'm saying the same thing in different ways to figure out what's the best way. So that's why you do drafts of things, because I've done work quickly and been embarrassed to find that it was like redundant. It was just redundant. Like, oh my god, that could have been half the length, and it would have been clear. Um, but you don't see it at first. It takes time for you to see things when you're doing visual work and when you're writing. So I think this is like simpler. I could use this second sentence without without needing to get into the Greeks, Pythagoras. But I like Pythagoras. That's kind of like a little more upscale to mention Pythagoras. Um, rather smart fellow. Okay, that for this assignment that might be enough. Yeah. Here, I'll stall a little bit and just put a nice title on it, or add to my title. So update O'Connor Hart 121. Okay. You could say monochrome or monochromatic. Pattern design. There, that'll eat up some lines. Did anybody ever do that writing when you were a kid? You write like this was a very, 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 very important thing, and your teacher would be like, "You can just say it once or not at all." But it's because they told us to use a certain number of words, and so I was like, "All right, I'm gonna pack this with a bunch of redundant words," but they catch you immediately. Okay, so I'm going to read this again. I chose this pattern to work from because it fits the assignment so well. Repetition of the wave motif allows a direct application of the monochromatic scales for each piece. While my design has been altered, as it should be, I think I'm just going to take that out. I don't need to add this aside. Parenthetical phrases are, I don't know. I avoid using it. If it belongs in your essay, just don't. There's no need to put it in parentheses. While my design has been altered, it is interesting. We need to look into the process. I don't even know if I say that. Altered from the original. It's interesting to look at the process. Yeah, I don't know, that's really great writing, but whatever. Don't worry about writing literature. Just like write something that like tells me what you did. That's the primary thing I want from you. Okay. Okay. I don't know that needs to be 2 sections. Sample of brief mosaic shows. Mm-hmm. Okay, that might be enough. All right. So like here, I feel like now, even after talking about this and doing a little bit of editing, um, I need to sit on this and think about it. But does it help to see me do this?
Yes, it does for me.
Good. You may already have this finished, and it might already be great. Um, but it's it's not a given that I don't know how well you like how well you write or what you know about writing. So um, I'm just go through this, and writing is a really specific kind of creative process where you just like have to keep sitting and like stare at it, write a little bit, put it away, come back to it. Um, so when I settle down to do writing, I actually enjoy doing it. But writing is not easy. I don't think. I don't think writing something good is challenging. Okay. Any questions about this or any aspect of this project? Does anyone have anything? Um, do any of you have something for me to see? You want me to look at your work so far? Okay. This is. I'm going to. Can I assume this assignment is well understood?
Yes.
Professor Duffy, I actually would like for you to look at what I've done, if that's okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I'm going to stop the share of this, and there and there. Okay.
Right. I don't know.
There you go.
Okay. So, I did it a little differently. I did all my swatches first. And then I just wanted like I guess a higher perspective of like the colors that I chose to use. So I ended up with this. And I might have to redo some of them because a lot of them aren't very solid. But I just wanted to know, like, first of all,
Hmm?
these are 11. There are 11 of them, not 12. But I just wanted to know if I'm like on the right track.
You are.
Okay.
I think that the
I didn't
transition
know if
looks
some were
good.
similar. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think the transition looks good. Um, and um, yeah. So what is the plan for what this is going to look like?
So, what I do want to do for my pattern, these are technically large enough for me to cut on. But again, I might want to redo some of them just because
Yeah.
like the solidness.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically what I was gonna do is like an Aztec pattern, and it's pretty linear um,
Okay.
and more vertical. So I mean, I technically like could cut it on here. So
All right.
Okay.
Good. That sounds
All right.
interesting. Yeah. So I think
Okay.
that the So I would say um, yeah. It's nice if if each of the samples is opaque, so it's nice, nice and
Mm-hmm.
solid. I can still see the transition, so I think that I would say try cutting it out and see what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because if you're going to cut it out and layer it on top of a middle value piece, then you're not going to see all of that, all of the unevenness. So
Right.
you're cutting some of it away. So I would check to see how it looks after you do that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so
Good.
much.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's a very good point. That if you paint a bunch of them and you see that you've got like they're like a little bit thin, or at least some parts of them are. I cut them out and see because they might be better than you think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect. Thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah. Um, yeah. So Aztec pattern. What other kinds of source imagery are you using for this assignment? This is a question that goes out to anyone. Hmm. So mine is Greek. Tessa's is Aztec. What else you got? I'm interested to know.
I have Greek also.
Good choice. I like the ancient Greeks.
I haven't done it yet, but I was thinking that something Byzantine, a very simple version, would be not easy to do, but um, kind of interesting to mimic because it would be, they do so many mosaics. You could just
Yeah.
kind of repeat one section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Byzantine it's a good and interesting choice. I mean, they were kind of like they have elements of ancient Greek and ancient Roman, and there's a very. I would love if I had a time machine. I would love to go back to like the height of the Byzantine Empire and go to Constantinople and see what it really looked like because it sounds spectacular and also like really kind of like weird, like weirdly like well, it was so conservative in terms of its artwork. Um, I went to a Byzantine museum in Greece, and like Athens has like this big Byzantine museum, and for about like that Byzantine Empire existed for about 1,000 years, and so like after like fall of the Roman Empire, they moved the capital of the Roman Empire east to Constantinople, which is now present day Istanbul in Turkey, and it really kind of like they just fortified the city and they stayed put and controlled the region for 1,000 years. Um, but the artwork, like the painting styles, did not change for 1,000 years, and they're like the ancient Egyptians, were like this sort of very autocratic society. Um, so like like an autocratic religious society where it was considered that what we have is established as the best thing. Why would you even think about changing it? So in the arts, like the stylization of like the way people painted, really didn't change. pretty remarkable. But I love. I mean, it's really interesting because we don't. I don't know. It's in some respects, we don't know as much about the Byzantines as the Romans. But anyone else? Oh yeah, it does. It does not have to be ancient culture. It could be any. Really, it could be from anything. Thank you, Paulina. So yeah, Old Slavic or pagan. That's great. I love it. Yeah. So and that's you would find a lot of early cultures. Um, like if we look at, I'm going to do a screen share here. Where are we? Um, share screen. Hmm. Um, ba-da-ba-ba. Cool. What something that you'll find is that a lot of early cultures use some of the same ideas. And this, like if you do like a just like general internet search, then you find something that looks interesting, and then you pursue it. Some of this looks like the like Celtic, a lot of the Celtic knot or like this sort of like three-pronged spiral. Um, this kind of like wheel thing is an ancient Irish. It is found in ancient Ireland. Um, so this is good. I'm interested in this stuff. Cool. Yeah, but it's interesting. Some of this looks a little like it's like looks like a relative of like Chinese pattern. Oh, Russian embroidery. Cool. Yeah, I like it. So yeah, some of this in doing this assignment, you need to simplify. Like if you choose one of these, you decide you think this, you like this. This looks good. You'd have to simplify that for this. I wouldn't expect all of this detail. No, I just want you to buy this. This is like the true yeah, copyright. These are copyrighted designs. Someone owns a copyright to this stuff, so you have to buy it if you want to use it. Like if you want to use it in a publication or something. But that's good. People should be compensated fairly for their work, or if they have ownership over imagery. Yeah, that's good. There is so much pattern design out there, and I mean, really, like, you could not tell me like I tried look for something, but I couldn't find anything. That would make me laugh because there is so much pattern design out there. Maybe you looked for things and you found so many things you couldn't decide. That might be more likely. Anyone having a hard time deciding, considering how much pattern design there would be to look at?
Definitely, that's why I just went with the the easiest.
Yeah, yeah. Um, this it's there's all this potential. When you look at some of this stuff, um, and it's like, I guess, like deciding what not to do can be more difficult than deciding what to do, because you could, if you start working on something and then you see something else and you think, oh, that one would have been better. Too late, follow through, finish it, and then use that new thing some other time. Maybe this would, an assignment like this could get you started with a really, like with, so it starts you off on this like career where you are design patterns. People still design new patterns. I mean, it's like, with all of this pattern, there are still like, there are 20th century, 21st century patterns. Here's like, so there are several of them. Houndstooth is a common pattern used in textiles. It has this kind of like toothy looking shape to it. It's actually a really nice pattern. Herringbone. This sort of like alternating rectangles is kind of similar. I mean, I did something vaguely similar, but you see it appears in textiles. It appears in flooring. It's just a common, herringbone is a common pattern. I'm sure you've seen it, and maybe you didn't know what it's called, but this is herringbone. You can put it on anything. Excuse me.
It's very popular as a floor style in Europe.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting.
Probably used to be more than the straight planks.
Yeah. I mean, just in, it's like, why not? If you like, you could put things down just like aligned at a right angle, or put them down at a diagonal and figure out a pattern that fits together. So a lot of what we call plaid is actually tartan, which comes from Scotland. Plaid. Plaid's a Welsh word. Plaid, so like plaid is Welsh. Plaid in Welsh, I know this from like reading about recent politics, is that plaid in Welsh means party. And this is a big party, isn't it? So this is, if you want to like read about like what plaid is, well, here, plaid, and that's like, well, everyone's going to call it. Can you trust plaid? No way. I don't know why people ask that. Oh, this is very fun. Plaid is like banking. It's like, what does plaid mean? Rectangular length of tartan worn over the left shoulder as part of Scottish national costume. So it also exists in, okay, so twilled woolen fabric with a tartan pattern. So the plaid is the fabric. Tartan is the pattern. Or an imitation of tartan. So yeah, it's, the internet's great, honestly, I mean, it's terrible, but it's also great because it's this great encyclopedia. If you really wanted, if you were doing like research, like for publication, or if this were like a class where you're writing like a essay, where you have to have, like citations and all that, then you would want to go to multiple sources and published sources that have editors, because I could write just about anything, put up on the internet, and if it's wrong, it might take a while before somebody figures out that I published something on the internet that's wrong. People do it all the time, and that can be very confusing if you are looking something up on the internet and you assume that the first thing that you read is correct. So always look at multiple sources. I I'm going to see here. Well, there you go. This is the Plaid Cymru. That's the national political. It's a Welsh nationalist political party, which is part of the UK, and we'll get into that. It's very interesting to me personally. Okay. Good. Does that help too? Look up some things, see what they look like. I mean, the internet's still kind of the wild west of information. You can, find and do just about anything. But if you have a direct your search, it'll filter out all kinds of things that are not relevant to what you're trying to do. Okay, so sorry for the. I guess just like I guess I just sort of like lost track of what I wrote for the schedule. Tuesday, Tessa, I think, reminded me that I had listed last Tuesday of this week as the due date for this assignment. But as I was working through this, I kind of like made up a new schedule in my head, which I did not share with you. So next Tuesday will be the due date for this assignment. I want you to have the finished pattern assignment painted, cut out, stuck down, and then this like a brief bit of writing about where this came from. You can write up to a page. It doesn't have to be a long essay. I'm interested to know where it's coming from. How did you get to this idea? Process is interesting to me. Process is always interesting because it's just interesting. I guess it's I like to know where stuff comes from. I've been doing creative work for a very long time, and I still don't know everything. And of course, the longer you do it, it's a really great and terrible thing that the longer you do it, the more you realize you don't know, because we're dealing with thousands of years of human activity producing images, and like you're one person doing this, but that can also be really cool because there's just so much to know. You'll never run out. Okay, any last questions? I think I've done everything I wanted to do. No? Okay. So thank you to everyone who has made an appointment with an advisor. If you still have to make an appointment with an advisor, please do it. But I see from the report that I get from the school that you've done it. They want it to be a requirement that you talk to an advisor and plan out your semesters so that you don't get caught a year from now finding that you didn't take a prerequisite and there's a spring only class that you need to take that you can't take because you didn't take the prereq. And there's no you can't have the prereq waived because you simply there's stuff in there that would prevent you from doing it. Tessa, if you don't sign up for the 217, I'll make sure that Carl knows to approve the override.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I saw your email. I'll be right on that today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Enjoy the rainy day. It's the trees are sprouting leaves and it's springtime. I'll see you Tuesday. On Tuesday, I'm going to talk about your next assignment, which is the complementary portrait. You can look up some information. I need to update information in the assignments folder, I believe. But you can see some examples of what things look like. And I'll start teaching that one next week.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.